إخوتي وأخواتي، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أنا دكتور عباس، من قسم الترجمة في كلية الآداب الجامعة المستنصرية. سوف يتم تقديم محاضرة حول models and semi-models and how they change over time between British and American English. So let me introduce model and semi-modal verbs. I think it's common for linguists. Modal and semi-modal verbs both are auxiliary verbs that add meaning to the main verb, indicating necessity, possibility, permission, or ability. So both of them are similar, but both of them are similar in function. But semi-modal verbs have slightly different in forms and are often used in more specific context.
The main goal of this presentation, or for the paper, the main goal of the key concept of this paper is, in my previous study in 2018, have been shown to present several advantages over traditional second point cross-sectional analysis in my respects. So they would still be appropriate to generate findings that are comparable to past diachronic analysis of model and semi-models of frequencies. So the purpose of this of that study, or the current study, is to focus more about cross-sectional techniques that I utilized through my analysis in 2018. Study the model replacement hypothesis, a hypothesis that stipulates the replacement of models with semi-models, put forward by Smith in 2003 and discussed by Leach also in 2003, on the basis of data from the Hansard corpus, 1 billion words, 1800 to 2000, and and Historical American English Corpus, which is COA, so million words from 1810 to 2000. So these two written corpora are virtual corpora with online interfaces that allow researchers to obtain frequencies in any given year. So in that study, or in the current study, the frequencies of both models and semi-models from these corpora were generated for each decade from 1810 to 2000, resulting in 20 data points. For the analytical scope with this study, so with these models and semi-models specified, so the first step in analysis was to create diachronic analysis based on both thick and core, so using Leach's idea of generations and working backwards in time. So the following pairwise comparisons appear to make sense between 1916 and 1990, 1930 and 1960, and 1900 and 1930. So of these three pairwise comparisons, 1916 and 1919 offers the greatest opportunity to generate results that can be compared to previous study. However, before proceeding to a comparison of results, the pairwise comparisons of 1916 and 1990 was made by using both models and semi-models, and on the basis of thick as well as core corpus. To facilitate the presentation of data, so the standard diachronic tables have been utilized, accompanied by graphics that illustrate observed change in my previous study in 2018. So the graphics are particularly useful in terms of comparing the findings of the current study with the findings of past studies. So it should be noted that because all of the raw data for the frequencies were already expressed as parts per million. The log likelihood calculations of the COA and thick data did not require an input of corpus size in any given year. Okay, so as demonstrated in that table, because the lob and f-lob data extracted by Leach 2003 were raw counts, corpus sizes in each year were taken into account when calculating. So the analysis for last results in the last table uh, so shows if in that graphs, the comparison graphs, okay, 1916 and 1919 models differences in thick and lob and OF lob. So the analysis of thick data from 1916 and 1990 indicated that the use of models was substantially more frequent in 1916. As shown here in that graphic, there were only 3 of 11 models, well, shall, and need that were used more frequently in 1919 than in 1960. So these data can be compared with the distinctions between lob and f-lob. So for lob in 1960 and f-lob in 1990. So which were the corpora consulted by Leach in 2003 and discussed by Smith also in 2003. A comparison of a percent differences presented in the last table on this figure, okay, so offers a simple means of comparison of comparing the diachronic in 1960 to 1990. So change in the relative frequencies of models and thick models and thick to the diachronic in 1960 and 1990. Change in the relative frequency of models from lob to f-lob. So the comparison contains several points of similarity, so the similarity as well as of distinction. So the models from which the lob or f-lob and thick, okay, diachronic analysis differed were well, can, could, shall, and need. However, in the 6 other models, lob or f-lob and thick agreed. So there were a general pattern of a decline in models seen in lob or f-lob and COA. Okay, for COA results, okay, so comparisons of results, models written corpora, okay, model changes in COA 1916 to 1990. Okay, so illustrates in that table, if you look at here, the differences and log likelihood, okay, in between 1916 and 1990. For the analysis of COA, so also illustrates in that in that graph, okay, so different graphics illustrate the analysis of COA data from 1916 and 1990 indicated that the use of models was substantially more frequent in 1960. There were only 3 of 11 models as shown here in the in those graphics. Model can, could, and need that were used more frequently in 1916 and 1990. Okay, so frequently in 1990 than in 1960. So these data can be compared with the distinctions between lob 1960 and f-lob 1990, which were the corpora consulted by Leach in 2003 and discussed by Smith in 2003. So the only model for which the lob or f-lob and COA diachronic analysis differ was need. So there was a therefore a general pattern of decline in models seen in lobe, OF lobe, and COA. Um, for the next table, contains an overall summary of the 1916 and 1919 model findings of the current study, juxtaposed with Leach's findings. Okay, so for the table to explain the overall analysis, model change in thick core and lobe or F lobe in 1916 to 1990. So the findings or the overall findings of this study or this analysis were closely aligned with Leach's in 2003 findings about the 1916 to 1919 declines in the frequency of models in lobe OF lobe corpora. In that slide, for that table, so I have to move to the comparison of results of semi-models written corpora. So semi-model change in thick in 1916 to 1919. So semi-model comparisons were made on the basis of analysis of the thick and coa corpora. So, and that table contains the semi-modal frequency comparisons from the thick corpus examines in this analysis. So, for that chart or this figure, so demonstrates the diachronic analysis of semi-models presented in the last table. When considered in the large context of semi-modal change in thick is somewhat misleading. A period of decline as shown in that figure appears in the thick data from 1916 to 1919, but does not represent this corpus overall pattern of an increasing semi-modular frequency. So this point is of substantial importance when contrasting the thick semi-model findings with those of Leach in 2003. So the analysis or the findings of this study concerning semi-models in thick, and lobe or F lobe corpora. So the findings related to semi-models in thick were in agreement with Leach's 2003 findings in terms of be going to, be to, have, go to, and used to. As shown in that figure, if you look at here for be going to, or be to, or have, got to, and used to, that you will find them agreed between Leach's study and the current study. So Leach found decline in the first three of these semi-models and an increase in the fourth semi-model, all of which were upheld through a corpus analysis of thick in the current study. So, however, the results of this analysis or this study differed from those of Leach in terms of have to, for which Leach detected an increase, whereas the current analysis detected a decrease, and one two also for which Leach detected an increase. So the current analysis detected a decrease. So the main difference was have got to, which declined much more steeply in thick than in the lobe or F lobe corpora. So in that table explains the results of semi-modal change in COA 1916 to 1919 to make a comparison between the current study and Leach's study, which is lobe or F lobe in 1916 to 1990. So the analysis of of semi-models written corpora. So demonstrates here in the those graphics. Okay, so comparisons between COA and lobe or F lobe. Okay, differences in semi-models. So the current study or the current findings related to semi-models in COA were in complete agreement with Leach's in 2003. So COA offered evidence for declines in the semi models of B going to, or just follow the table, go to the B going to. Okay, so in COA and B2 and have got 2, all of which were also observed to decline by Leach. Okay, so COA also offered evidence for increases in have 2, 1, 2, and use 2, all of which were also observed in increased by Leach. So the COA analysis carried out in the current analysis triangulates Leach's lobe or F lobe findings with respect to all of the 6 semi-models that were examined in Leach's work, as well as in the current analysis. So in that table demonstrates the overall results of the current analysis were largely in alignment with Leach's 2003 findings. Okay, so about the decline of semi-models. However, because of the current analysis longer time span, so from in 1810 to 2000. So the findings indicated that even when semi-models were observed to decline diachronically from 1916 to 1919, there was still an overall pattern of an increase in the frequencies of semi-models in both thick and COA corpora. Okay, so since I have written corpora investigated in my analysis, then I have to cover spoken corpora as well. Okay, so Leach in 2003 worked with the spoken corpora including DCPSE. COA is a written corpora. Okay, so a written corpus. And thick is a hybrid corpus as it consists of speeches given in parliament. So in that table, okay, to explain the overall results that I go from the current study. Okay, so Leach's DCPSE based findings with the findings from the current analysis. Okay, so particularly findings from thick, which like DCPSE is rooted in British English and contains a spoken elements. Okay, so to get more analysis about and also more findings about the spoken corpora between thick and DCPSE. So the analysis demonstrates that decline of weight could, may, should, must, and out, and the increase of so for thick and DCPSE disagreed in terms of can, might, shall, and need, as shown in the graph. Okay. So and despite these substantial qualitative differences between an ordinary corpus of spoken British English and a corpus derived from parliamentary speeches, um, uh, I think it was interesting to observe that thick and DCPSE agreed in the differences of 7 of the 11 models. Okay, for the semi-modal change in thick, COA and DCPSE 1916 to 1919. So these differences have been summarized in that table, okay, and discussed in greater details, and also adding for the information about the relationship between the current analysis findings and Leaches in 2003. diachronic spoken corpus findings in the next slide. Okay, so the analysis of a semi-model of frequency or frequencies in 1960 to 1919 in COA and DCPSE. So if we look at here for the diagram, so this diagram or that graph illustrates the differences in COA and DCPSE. Okay, so to look at more about it, we will find there is more alignment between the COA and DCPSE corpora in terms of observed diachronic semi-modal frequency change. So in DCPSE, 5 of the 6 semi-models with only used to, okay, so used to were observed to increase in 1919 as opposed to 1916. So in COA, 3 of the 6 semi-models were observed to increase in frequency over the same time period, while the thick only one of the semi-models was observed to increase in frequency. So therefore, the DCPSE semi-model change are closer to COA than to thick. So okay, to conclude this, so the study of model change is taking place in relation to the modern era of English. So with one of the main topics of interest being the issue of relative frequency of models and semi-model use. So Leach in 2003 provided an empirical evidence for a rise in models and a decline in semi-models from 1916 to 1990. So drawing upon both written and spoken corpora, targeting both American and British English. So however, Smith 2003 noticed the existence of several open questions. So in the field of model and semi-model research. So okay, so I mean, they found
So
out
thank you so much
a
for
proof
listening.
of a rise
And if you
in the
need
use of
to
semi-models
get
and a
more
decrease in the use
evidences,
of models.
but
And
in this
more
study,
analysis,
what I found out only
for
for
American
all
English,
the
which is
methodology
COA,
provided
that research,
the same
just you
result
need to
that
go to
has been
the
confirmed by
to that
Leach
reference
and
that I
Smith in
published,
2003,
okay,
while
which
the
is
results
published
score that the
Abbas
historical
Hussein
British English corpus, which
2018,
is
a
thick,
corpus analysis of
demonstrate
change in
an
the use
increase in the
of
use of both models
British
and
and
semi-models over
American
time.
English
Since
models and
this study
semi-models,
has
okay,
shown
which is
that
the
there
last
is a
reference.
rise in the use
So
of
just you need to
semi-models
go
for both
American and British
on
English.
the
So this
paper,
indicates a
and then
potential
you will
alternative
find out
impact
the
state
methodology for that
that
paper,
would have made
and
a rise in
also
the use of
more
semi-models
analysis
by which
or the
displaces
the basic
the use
analysis
of
for
models.
for that research. And thank you so much for listening again.